that things were going to change and that segregation wouldn't exist anymore?
Yes, I did. I always thought that segregation couldn't last forever. And that was one of the things that we always talked about in school. But everybody's dream was to graduate from high school and get the heck out of Alabama as fast as they could. Generation after generation would be leaving and going to Detroit, Chicago, New York, out to California, places like that. And they would come back, driving their little Cadillac, telling us how great it is up in the northern cities. And they would tell us, you don't have to be worried. You can go walk down any street you want to. You can live anywhere you want to live, and you don't have to put up with this stuff. So we knew changes were going to come that didn't know how fast or whatever, but we knew it was going to happen.
What was your attitude and just everyone's attitude in general when the civil rights movement started taking place?
Everybody wanted to get involved in it. Everybody was anxious to listen to civil rights leaders, especially, of course, Martin Luther King Jr. He was very young at that time, but he was going to churches all over the place and giving speeches about equal opportunity and civil rights and all that kind of stuff, and getting people kind of fired up about it, and basically letting us know that this is not the way it's going to always be. And if you remember, he had his dream.
Because I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
He would tell us about his dream even before he gave his speech, that there were going to be changes and throughout the United States, not only up north, the signs and stuff like that would be gone and the schools would be integrated and all that sort of stuff.
What made me think it was going to change really when I started really following Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and listening to him, I went on a civil rights march, left our college and walked down several miles to some protest and we did that a lot in college. And Dr. King inspired me, especially when he made that speech, when it was August 63, I Have a Dream speech at the Lincoln Memorial. I became very much aware when I was in college that things were so unequal, so unjust. And I thought it would eventually change, but it didn't. It took a long time.
So were some people afraid to be part of the civil rights movement because they were afraid that some white people would come and beat them up or do something?
Yeah, a lot of adults were fearful for their children. So they didn't want their children to get involved into any of these activities. And they would not get involved in some of them themselves because you always had the threat of losing your job or your livelihood. If your boss saw you out protesting or something like that, you could very easily lose your job. It was like being blackballed. Therefore, you lost your job in one place, chances are you were not going to get a job in another place. So there was a lot of fear.
When the civil rights movement was kind of in action, do you notice white people start being nicer to you?
No,
how people now? No,
they weren't nicer. They were angry.
Oh,
when the civil rights movement was really at its peak, let's say you remember the Birmingham bombing, the march from Selma to Montgomery. During that time, I was watching all that stuff on TV. I was in college. White people in the South were really angry. You blacks want to integrate, want to come to the University of Alabama. You want to do this. Why don't you stay in your place? The white people were very angry for the most part. They didn't like it. They did not like it. They didn't like it. The Civil Rights Act also said you couldn't discriminate on the basis of color or ethnicity or whatever. And that's why when you go into a place and you apply for a job, you see the sign up there, we'll equal opportunity employ you. That wasn't true.
Yeah.
You go into a business, the guy up front waiting on you would be a white guy, and the guys in the back doing the dirty work would be black. And that stayed that way for a long, long time. And it's still that way in a lot of places today.
It definitely is still that way. I just remember always going to like down south and like in Charleston, South Carolina, all the cooks and stuff were black. All the waitresses and like the managers, they were all white. Every place. The people cleaning up would always be black.
You know, there's always been good people and bad people in the world. Some people just have evil in their hearts, and it's going to stay in their hearts forever. I think there are a lot of people that are basically good people that knew things were wrong, and they couldn't do too much, but they would do whatever little that they could. Well, yeah, and so that happened sometimes, that there were some white people in the South who were willing to try to be a part of change, yes.
We were like, oh wow, things are really changing for the better. Like, life has changed, you know, society's better. When did you realize that?
It was a gradual process. It wasn't like you had an epiphany, you know, all of a sudden the lights went off and, hey, look, we're free. It was a gradual process because even though, you know, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 had done away with discrimination in public accommodations, places like that, you still would go to places and they would tell you, no, you can't come in. You have to go around the back if you want to be served here. So go around to the back window if you want to get a hot dog. So then you drive, you know, I'm going up Interstate 95, driving to New York or someplace for a summer job. I get to the next place, it's nice. I can go in and no problems. You drive another 50 miles and you got problems. So it was spotty.
Yeah.
So things were getting better, but it was gradual.